Hi, welcome again to the Old Principle English program. I tell stories. In fact, the total number of stories that I'll be telling is 310. Now that's a lot of different stories. Today's lesson is my own personal experience again, and it is about haunted house. Do you know what a haunted house is? 鬼屋. Oh, 很可怕. Well, I was actually in a haunted house, and I will tell you the story in just a minute. But first, you can listen to the story as my wife reads it. Stay by and listen to the story.
Story 261, Haunted House. I lived in 2 homes during my 4-week stay in the Dalles, Oregon. As you recall, I was selling books from door to door. I don't remember the first home very well. I do remember that since they had a child, my presence only complicated their lives. Before the week was over, I moved to another home. The second house was the classic, quote, haunted house variety. The house was secluded. It was large, dilapidated, and badly in need of paint. The widow who lived there was a perfect mirror of her house. She was old and strange. Everything about the lady and the house was old and colorless. The drabness matched my mood. The future looked dismal and bleak. Had I been given a room downstairs, I might have felt better, but instead I was given a little room in the attic. Everywhere up there were old trunks and antiques. There was also a thick layer of dust on everything but my bed, table, and chair. In every corner and under the single window there were cobwebs. It was summertime, so the whole attic was unbearably hot, and when I opened the single window, mosquitoes came in to suck my blood. The lady promised to feed me, but she and her house were so spooky that I didn't feel comfortable eating there. However, I had no choice but to eat what was set before me because, well, I didn't have enough money to buy my own food. At the same time, I was remembering stories that I had heard about ghosts and witches. I had no one to encourage me, and I was selling very few books. I was so afraid of knocking on doors to sell books that I often went to the park to daydream. Every week, I faithfully turned in my report, and I'm sure my supervisors were increasingly alarmed. I wasn't selling enough books to even pay for my food. Something must be done.
Welcome back. Here we go. I lived in 2 homes during my 4-week stay in the Dalles, Oregon. Now remember, as you recall, I was selling books from door to door. 我是挨家挨户 买书，我是一个推销员。So I was in the Dalles, Oregon for 4 weeks. In those 4 weeks, I stayed in 2 different homes. 就住在2个家。Now, keep in mind that when I say I stayed there, it was free. Okay? And that was cool. It was free that I could stay there. But they didn't encourage me a whole lot. In fact, going on, I don't remember the first home very well. Actually, I didn't stay there for very long. But I do remember that since they had a child, a little baby, and they hadn't had the baby for too long, my presence complicated their lives. 我存在就使他们的生活好复杂。Well, I'm sure that you've had this experience, either visiting someone else or you have had people visiting you. When you have guests, whether you are the guest or whether it's you are hosting a guest, it complicates their lives. It's more difficult to handle. Going on. Before the week was over, I moved to another home. So I was only there 1 week. And then I moved to another home. Going on. The second house was the classic haunted house. Okay, the second house, 第二家，我搬到第二家，so the classic, typical, 典型的 classic, typical, haunted house, 鬼屋 haunted house. 那种 okay? So, remember, I am what? I am by myself. That means that I don't have anybody with me. So, this is not a good sign. The house was secluded. It was in the city, 不过是稍微偏远一点点. It was secluded. Actually, there were trees all around the house. So it was kind of off by itself. You couldn't see it, okay? The house was secluded. That means separate, okay? It was large. It was a big house, an old house. It was dilapidated. Have you ever heard of the word dilapidated? Dilapidated is 破旧, or sometimes 破烂, okay? 破旧, 破烂, dilapidated. And it badly in need of paint. 很需要粉刷, 刷油漆, okay? So, this all added some more feeling to my mind. It was not a nice, new, bright, big windows. No, it wasn't that way. Okay, going on. The widow, so who lived there? It was a widow, 寡妇, who lived there, was a perfect mirror of her house. When I say perfect mirror, 它自己本身呢 is 反映她的家。Personally, I felt that she was strange. I don't know why. I just felt that she was strange. Maybe because I was old and she was old and I was young. So, and the house was old, and it even had a little smell to it. It just was not cool, as the young people would say today. She was old and she was strange. Everything about the lady in the house was old and colorless. Colorless, okay, 没有什么彩色. It was, in just a second, we'll see another word. It was drab. In fact, let's take a look at the next one here. Okay, the drabness matched my mood. What does drab mean? Okay, undone. It's dark, it's drab, it's no color. Remember in the last slide we said colorless? Well, it says here that the drabness of the house matched my mood. 我的心情就反映the drabness of the house. 这个房子的暗淡 or 惨淡. See, sometimes where you live, it helps you to be happy, 开朗, or sad. For sure, our moods, 我们的心态, 我们的态度, is reflected or gets reflection from where we live. Have you ever wondered why people like big windows in their house? Nowadays, 现代, nowadays people like big windows because when they have big windows, then it makes them feel good. It makes them feel very good and very happy. The drabness matched my mood. 我的心态也是蛮暗淡的. The future looked dismal and bleak. Dismal and bleak. That means it is just like the drabness, 没有颜色. It looks like it's not going to be, maybe you could translate that 惨淡 also. Drabness, dismal, bleak. It is all trying to illustrate that it was not a happy situation going on. I had been given a room downstairs. If I had been given a room downstairs, I might have felt better. If I had been given a room downstairs, 在第一楼, it would have been okay, at least better. But instead, I was given a little room in the attic. Have you ever been in an attic? Well, if it's hot weather, it's going to be hot. And if it's cold weather, it's probably going to be okay. But attic is 阁楼. It's upstairs. What do people put in attics? What do people put in attics? Okay, going on. Everywhere up there were old trunks, 老箱子, and antiques, 古董. Everything was old. And I was a young person, and I did not care for old things. But that's not all. There were other problems too. Notice there was also a thick layer of dust everywhere. 一层厚厚的灰尘. Dust. Everything. I was afraid to touch anything, because if my clothes touched anything, it became 肮脏的, dirty. So I couldn't touch anything. By the way, there was no bathroom upstairs. 没有厕所呢, so I had to go downstairs for that. Okay, there's a layer of dust on everything but my bed, table, and chair. So 3 things did not have dust on them. That was my bed, my table, and my chair. Everything else I couldn't touch because it was so dirty and dusty. Going on. In every corner and around the single window, there were cobwebs. 每一个角落. Okay? And around the window, there were cobwebs. Do you know what a cobweb is? A cobweb is 蜘蛛网. 蜘蛛网. Cobwebs everywhere. Of course, I wasn't afraid of spiders. Some people would be afraid of spiders, but still, it gave a very funny feeling. Going on. It was summertime, and the whole attic was unbearably hot. Unbearably. That's a nice word. Take a look at that. Unbearably. Bear. 没办法, well, you could just say 承受不了. 承受不了. Unbearably hot. 热得要命. Yep, it was hot up there in the attic. And when I opened the single window, and there was a little tiny window up there, very small window, guess what came in? Mosquitoes came in to make company with me, or to be my friends. 蚊子就进来, and they came to what? Suck my blood. 吸我的血. Yeah, do you get the picture? It is a haunted house. A haunted house. 鬼屋. And the pictures, 典型的鬼屋, has lots of cobwebs, and there's dust. And that house was just that way. Going on. The lady promised to feed me. That was, I guess, good news. She promised to feed me. But her house was strange. Her self was strange. She was strange. And her food was strange. But she and her house were so spooky. Do you know what a spooky means? 可怕. When you say a spook is a ghost. 鬼啊. And you 加一个 y. Spooky simply means 可怕. That means that, well, if it's spooky, it means 有一点这个鬼的味道. Spooky is 恐怖, 可怕. And that didn't, and I didn't feel comfortable eating there. So I just did not feel like eating in her house. Obviously, I was a young man, so I needed food, and I ate what she served. In fact, going on, however, I had no choice. 我没有其他的选择 but 只要 eat what was set before me. 它摆在我的面前，什么样的食物，什么样的东西，I had to eat it. 这个一定要吃的 ，OK? I didn't have enough money to buy food of my own. 我没有足够的钱去买自己的食物。So I was at the mercy of these people, both homes. I was at the mercy for their providing me some food. And they were willing to do it. That was the wonderful thing. They were willing to help. But remember, I was not selling books. I was having difficulty. Now, to live in a haunted house, in a dirty, old attic room, this is not a happy situation. Okay? And I did not have enough money to buy my own food. Go ahead. However, at the same time, I was remembering stories I had heard about ghosts and witches. Human beings are strange, aren't they? If the situation is not quite right, then you start to think about all the stories that you have heard before. You've heard stories about ghosts, and you've heard stories about witches, 女巫, ghost, 鬼. So you start remembering these stories, and you're in this house that is so much like a haunted house. I had no one to encourage me. 没有人鼓励我. And I was selling very few books. 我卖的书不多，不多。And so I was getting discouraged. The house was a haunted house in my estimation. The lady was strange. And so I was getting more and more discouraged. Going on. I was so afraid of knocking on doors to sell books that I often went to the park to daydream. So, I'm supposed to be going from door to door. I 叫爱护卖书, but I was so afraid. 害怕的，我不敢叩门啊. I was afraid of knocking on the doors. So, I would go to the park. There was a park up above the city on the mountain. And I would go up there and look down on the city. And I would pray. And I would think. But I wouldn't go out and sell books. 一天过一天就是这样. I was daydreaming. 白日梦. Okay, going on. Every week, I faithfully turned in my report, and I'm sure my supervisors were increasingly alarmed. Every week, 我很忠心的 turned in my report. 交我的周报表 ，OK， 周报表 Every week I turned it in, and I am sure that my supervisors were increasingly alarmed. Increasingly alarmed, meaning 他越来越紧张 because they could see I was not selling books. So 我的主管越来越紧张 going on. I wasn't selling enough books. Yeah, I wasn't selling enough books to pay for even my food. Something must be done. 我卖的书不足够维持我吃饭 I could not, I had to pay something for food. They wouldn't give me everything for free, and I was not making enough money. Something must be done. When we say something must be done, 一定要解决这个问题。怎么样解决? Well, I'll continue telling how my summer as a door-to-door salesman, 挨家挨户的推销员, how my summer eventually turned out. But that's a later story. For now, I was living in a haunted house. 好恐怖. Okay, I'd like to share with you that you can write an email to us. Our email address is theoldprinciple@gmail.com. And our website is www.theoldprinciple.org. Hey, it's been great to share a little time with you. I hope this has been helpful, and you'll join me next time.